So welcome back, and hopefully, since your bellies are full, your appetite to learn about how you can transform your organization to be more analytically savvy through attribution measurement. You're still hungry to learn more about that. So again, my name is Tina Moffett. I'm an analyst on the Customer Insights team at Forrester Research. Been with Forrester for a few years. I cover measurement, which is a huge topic. But I've been covering attribution, marketing mix, and best-in-class metrics to understand whether or not your marketing or media, or your interactions, as I like to call them, with your customers really matter and how you value them. So today, what I will talk about here is how you transform attribution insights into action. And I wanted to start off with a story to help, prove my point that it's important to measure customers along their purchase path and their journey. And it starts off with my two boys, Jack and Sam. Jack's 4, Sam is 18 months, and having boys means that you have messes. And they're messy. I mean, the other day, I caught Sam sitting in a pile of mud playing with water left over from the snow that we had in New York. It's just really gross. And of course, their clothes, are gross, and they go through them pretty quickly. So I, being a good mother, decided they need a new wardrobe. And so do I, quite frankly. So I went shopping. So I went on a search because as a mother with 2 young boys, that I'm saving for college and I have bills, I need to be smart about where I spend my money. So I knew that Jack had camp coming up, right? So he needed to get some swimming trunks. Went to the Google, typed in boys swimming trunks, went to that little bar up there to determine, okay, well, what's the cheapest swimming trunks out there? Come to find out, good old trusty Old Navy. And I know we have some people from the Gap in the audience, and I'll be nice, I promise. But Old Navy came up as the 4th brand when I searched for little boys' trunks, swim trunks. So I clicked on it, went there, didn't make a purchase. I didn't do anything. But a few days later, went on the website, and I started filling the basket. Not only for Jack and Sam, but for me and my husband, because I can trust the Gap brand, right? I go to Old Navy for Jack and Sam, because it's good quality for reasonable prices, Gap and Banana Republic for myself. So I just went on a shopping spree. And being a marketer, and moreover, being an analytics professional, I kind of paused there, because I wanted to see what would happen next. So I left everything in there. I signed in, they saved my basket, but I left everything. And this is what happened. Email reminding me, hey, come back, make the purchase. Another email saying, hey, here's another 20% off. And I could go on and on, but let me just recap what that journey was like. So again, went to search, clicked on Old Navy. I then went to Gap.com, went direct to site a few days later. Then something interesting happened. Between April 29th and May 11th, I received 27 emails from Gap, Old Navy, and Banana Republic. 27. Now, the only reason why I know this is because I was prepping for this speech and I was thinking, okay, well, this is a good way for me to emphasize the point that you need to measure and understand the value of interactions. So I knew I got a lot of emails from the Gap, but when I went to look back, I was just completely floored that I was receiving 2 emails a day from them, most of them promotional. I mean, $50, spend $50, get free shipping, 15% off, 20% off, 40% off. So on May 11th, I made the purchase, and that's seriously what I ordered. It was a long list. And if you notice, it was right around Mother's Day, and I made the purchase because I got, I think, 30 to 40% off. So of course I started thinking about this, and I'm like, okay, well, which email should get credit, or should it be search or direct to site should get credit for the transaction? And I say this because Gap's intention was for me to convert. But the thing is, I would have converted if they would have sent me 2 emails. And quite frankly, I would have converted if they would have just sent me 20% off, not 30 or 40, because I needed those items. Right? So was it really any of the marketing or media push that I received from the Gap and the brands within the Gap, or was it just what I needed at the time? Could the Gap have taken into account more contextual information to hit me in the right cadence, the right frequency, with the right offer, but reduce the number of times? Yeah, sure, email's cheap, right? Digital media is cheap to buy, but quite frankly, what it did to how I view the Gap was kind of me putting them in the category of, well, they're kind of a discount retailer. You know, if I play the game right, I'm gonna get some percentage off, and I'm not sure if the Gap wants that perception out there. So keeping that in mind, I think as marketers, we need to think about, given the purchase path that you take as a customer, how do you value those interactions? How do you measure whether or not that email or that display ad or that non-branded search term really drove people to the website and converted? So what I'll talk to you about today is a few things. One is I want to tell you why it's important to care about interactions and the customer purchase path with some research that we have at Forrester, some data. Second, I'm going to share with you some insights that we gathered from a report commissioned by Ken Shu and executed by Forrester on the activation of attribution insights. So what are some of the pain points there? What are some marketers doing to activate those insights? And finally, I'll leave you here with 4 key things that you can do to just be smarter about analyzing and measuring and activating those insights. So it's no surprise that we at Forrester believe that we're in the age of the customer. Customers in control. Those brands who put customers at the center of their business and center of their marketing and media activities have a distinct competitive advantage. We define the age of the customer as a 20-year business cycle, which most successful enterprises will reinvent themselves and systematically understand and serve increasingly powerful customers. So basically, the center of your business is about the customer, and we figured there are 4 market imperatives for you as a brand to become more customer-centric. First being is embracing the mobile mind shift, right? So coming to terms with the fact that you need to have a mobile strategy to address and meet the customer's need at any given moment in time. Second is to enhance and embrace a customized customer experience, right? So making sure that the interactions with the customers meet their needs, it's contextually relevant, it's a good experience so that you can foster loyalty. Third is using big data to turn big data into insights. So using things like attribution, marketing mix modeling, churn analytics, other marketing analytics methodologies to drive more insights about what's working, what's not working, and more insights about your customers. And 4, transform yourself into a digital business. People are connected. They want to connect with the brand instantaneously. In order for you to do that, you need to have a digital business. So those 4 market imperatives really drive brands to become more customer-centric. But specifically, customers are addressable. They're in control. They have access to information all the time. I was just flying out here from the East Coast, and I'm a big Delta frequent flyer. I like them a lot. Their app is really good. And it's not only because you can check in and like scan through security, but it sends you instant notifications about gate information, updates, not only through the app, but through email, text message. But now you can push out when you arrived at a location to Facebook. It will automatically connect you to kind of different services that you may need. So for example, if you have to, if you need a car service, a hotel, it will make suggestions. It's a really good app. But they figured out that in order for them to be more engaged with the customer, not only customers, but their employees need to use mobile devices to connect information together and to understand how they can serve customers better and how customers can interact with the brand more seamlessly. So they're doing a really great job at using the app to facilitate those moments, right? So mobile, to illustrate this more, mobile is really accelerating that shift to the age of the customer. We conducted this mobile intensity score to determine how intense customers use their mobile devices on a scale of 0 to 100. And that means that customers are completely using their mobile devices. They use it in specific locations, and we devised a calculation to determine how intense they use it. We found that China, for example, has a high mobile usage, right? US very close behind. What does that mean for you guys? It means that you have that moment to capture the customer's attention in a contextually relevant way, right? So you're not just sending them messages. You're sending them messages if they're located near your store. You're sending them messages if you notice that they have just visited your website a few times and you want to push more messages out to them via mobile. So it's important that you understand customers are connected, they use their devices a lot. For example, a lot of you guys are on your devices right now. Yeah, I see you, not paying attention. Come on, it's exciting stuff. Wait till I get to the measurement part, man. You guys will be all exciting. So mobile is here, we all know this. So that means better analytics is needed. When we conducted a business technographic survey, what we found was that, hey, majority of firms are using analytics to drive business value. Well, obviously, I hope they are. But what was interesting to me was the second one down, is that they're using analytics to drive experience. A few companies are doing this really well. T-Mobile monitors social media to identify customer pain points, but they use it very specifically, right? Home Depot uses social media analytics to understand and identify areas where they can provide more product, more relevant product. Macy's uses analytics, and this is a really great example of using pricing analytics to dynamically change their prices every day over hundreds of thousands of SKUs on their website based on availability and purchase. So that's pretty cool ways of using analytics for just not marketing and media, but really to fundamentally change the way you offer products, how you price products, how you interact with customers. So the spotlight is on measurement analytics to prove not only business value, but marketing value, customer value. 2014, there's just been this explosion of marketing technology. Different ad tech vendors buying smaller tech vendors to bolster their marketing technology stack or ad tech stack. Really interesting things going on. But none of that automation and the ability to make changes or manage your campaigns or manage your digital media or make buys, none of that's good if you don't have the analytics in place to tell you where you should invest your next best dollar. That's the bottom line. And I think Ken Shu knew this when they came to Forrester and said, look, we think that everybody knows the value of advanced attribution. They know that they need to move from last click. What we really want to understand is how are marketers using that information? Are they instantaneously changing their media buys? Are they shifting their dollars? What are some of the pain points around that? What are the agencies doing, and what are some of their pain points? So what they did was they commissioned a study in 2014 with Forrester to understand adoption of attribution. So not only did they want to understand, do people get it, but they wanted to understand, are people using it? Or is it just a report that sits on somebody's shelf? So our hypothesis was that organizations kind of struggle to use these insights to understand the purchase path. We think that there are more organizations knowing that they need to move from last click, they need to adopt something more advanced, but they may not be using it. So what we did was we surveyed 106 marketers and customer insights professionals and agencies to understand how are they using it. We focused on those folks who are using it, that are independent from Kenshu. They're not using Kenshu, so these are our complete panel survey respondents. And then our top line conclusion was that companies are satisfied with attribution, right? They get the value of it, but they want more. And that more is that they want the technology and the processes to be closely aligned with the insights so that they can execute and they can make changes, because they realize that the gap is between the insights and the actionability of it. So let's get started. Let me share with you some results that we found. Organizations leverage a lot of digital channels to reach and grow customers. I mean, I don't think this is to any surprise. What we found was the top 10, 8 out of 10 are digital channels. 2 other channels that marketers are still using, mass media, television, referral marketing as well. So we also found that they're using 13 channels, and out of those 13 channels on average, right, so these are the only top 10 shown, but out of the 13 channels on average, 60% of those are used in attribution models. So they understand the value of measuring, and they're using those channels that they can track people to measure more effectively. Right? And we started to kind of peel back the onion. We're like, okay, well, they're using all these channels, but are they really measuring effectively? And when we asked, what specific approach are you using to calculate attribution, we found that only 11% are using advanced attribution. So algorithmic-based attribution. We did find, though, that 75% are moving away from last touch. 76% are moving away from last touch. But they're adopting kind of like a more ad-level, rules-based type approach. Only 11% have using statistics to drive measurement. Additionally, when we asked, how are you measuring your campaigns and channels effectively, we found that only about 24% are measure channels simultaneously. So they're not really that sophisticated in terms of how they're using attribution, right? They may just be providing those insights, but they're not dynamically looking at how, for example, a display ad impacts search, or even getting more crazy, how television impacts search, something like that. So they're really narrowly focused in terms of using that information. So why? What's preventing them? It's always interesting when you start to ask about the challenges of using attribution. And for institutional marketers, for corporate marketers, 40% indicated organizational hurdles. Right? And this is not really a surprise to anybody. We think that the challenge is rectifying metrics across different channels and different platforms. Quite frankly, another challenge is the complexity of these insights. It's really hard to explain how using advanced statistics came up with this these results of how you recalculate CPAs and credit across different interactions. And quite frankly, finally, in terms of organization, it becomes a turf war, right? So let's say your VP of marketing or CMO looked at these attributed results and identified that within digital, display is outperforming search, and that by a large margin. The implication is, well, we're going to shift more money away from search into channels that are working, which quite frankly I don't see happen that often. But it creates a source of contention. Now we pose this question to the agencies that have answered our survey. And what was really interesting is that the agencies said, what's really difficult is having the processes in place to actually change media plans based on attribution. And part of this is twofold. One is having the technology to enable those insights into action, so linking those results directly into the buying platforms to execute the buys. The second is contractual obligations that they may have with brands about doing meeting any kind of buying thresholds. So the contractual parts of it is a challenge. This is consistent with the research that I've done around the challenges of applying measurement and analytics within an organization. But what I found beyond organization, kind of challenges, is data is a huge issue. In fact, we found that data just surpasses organizational challenges in our own independent research. And it's data quality, data connectivity, ability to connect people across devices, and data sourcing, identifying the right sources to pull together. So that's why partnerships like Kensho and Drawbridge are really essential so that you can get that complete picture. Great. So, what do marketers want to do with this information, right? When we ask this question, we're like, okay, well, what are the top 3 things that you want to do? And what's really interesting is, and this is consistent, again, with the research that I've posed, is that, one, they want to make changes to media plans, right? They want the ability to understand, for example, if you were to put a display ad on a specific publisher site, which publisher site should you go with? Or which one should you fire? Or which search terms that you should bid on, or what's the appropriate pricing that you should focus on when you're buying digital media. The second is to measure incremental sales, right? So think about it. You want to measure against a base population that wasn't exposed to your advertising, and you want to better understand that if this advertising or this piece of media was not served up to a certain audience, would they have come in anyway, right? So attribution allows them to kind of be a little bit more focused on what's truly incremental versus what's not. And then finally is to better evaluate creative content and offers. And luckily, attribution models can help provide guidance on all of these things, especially the testing piece and the implications of testing on that last piece. Because it's extremely critical for marketers to take action on this, and this is what they want to do with it. Very, very specific to understand marketing and media performance, but even more so, how do you make those changes instantaneously? How do you understand which media is working, and how do you make the next best buy given those results? So what we did find was that marketers are getting more nimbler, right, with these attribution results. They're trying to execute. Those who are adopting attribution, they're really trying to make changes swiftly and measure against those changes. And this part of the research was really interesting to me because what we found was that there we go. When we asked, once you've received, these results, how quickly do you adjust media buys, right? And this is really interesting, is that 42% of marketers have the processes and technology in place to act on their attribution results at least several times a day, right? So that means not only do they have the right measurement technologies or the right ad technologies, they're able to quickly change those insights and be very agile. So they're able, in my example, if Gap has that ability, that technology in place, they could potentially be able to hit me up with ads on social, on MSN, on any one of the browsers that I go on, able to find that right cadence of interactions across digital channels, across devices. If they're able to know that, they probably would have reduced the number of emails that they sent me. So that was a really interesting insight. And what we also found was that 68% are very or completely likely to use technologies to rapidly adjust media spends. And part of my job at Forrester is to take inquiries from brands to help them understand how they can measure better. About 48% of my inquiries, I know this because I just calculated it last week, but 48% is around technologies, right? So what are the measurement technologies out there that can help me measure better and optimize better? So it's critical for them to make a purchase or make an investment in a technology that provides them value beyond just reporting, right? They need to prove the value of those insights and how it can dramatically change decisions. Again, we are in a connected world, right? Customers have their devices all the time. I mean, I get emails, promotions, a countless number of times a day, as I'm sure all you do, you all do. So it's imperative, right, that they have those connections to those media buying systems. So not only they can save money, it's an efficiency play, right? They can reduce their CPAs, they can buy the right type of audience, they can do all that, but I mean, think longer term. It's about not destroying brand value, right? It's about contextual interaction so you can identify loyal customers and grow them. I know it's really hard to think that way when you're optimizing, your end goal is to optimize a specific digital media campaign, or whatever your end goal is, or a specific cross-channel campaign. But you should always think about the bigger picture. It is about creating contextual value to your customers so that they can become highly profitable and completely loyal to your brand. And then finally, marketers and CI pros feel that measurement and analytics is a complete competitive advantage. What we found was that 65% say that attribution is critically important within their new technologies. With all the talk of all the ad tech and the MarTech and the convergence of the two, very few vendors have really put a focus on the analytics and measurement needed to fuel a lot of these engines to make better decisions, surprisingly. There's more, I think, investments and focus on that in 2015. I've definitely seen it. But I would say on the ad tech side with companies like Kensho, we've really put a focus on productizing analytics to have it become more full circle. So companies, for example, like Ideally, flash sale site, I'm very familiar with them. get promotions, click on, buy designer clothes at great prices. What they're able to do is now is identify the right publisher sites, serve up the right ads at the right moment in time. And that is critical for them because of the nature of their business. They have to push out inventory of their clothing pretty quickly. And there's other competitors out there that's doing it too. So they're using attribution as a way to do that and integrating those technologies to execute on. So to recap what we learned, right? Digital's winning, attribution's hard. Those using attribution want the ability to change media buys, adjust spending, right? So there's a marketing and media play. And further, those who are using it are highly satisfied with the speed to action, making changes several times a day. And it's a critical piece of a technology investment. That's a nice story. Well, what's the most impactful piece of that is the need to make changes instantaneously. People are saying that, marketers are saying it, brands are saying it. This is attribution insights, it's nice. But if it can't be a part of the digital media buying ecosystem, or connected to that, it's not going to change the way I make decisions. So what can you do to kind of activate those insights a bit more, to really embrace attribution within your organization, activate the insights, and really make significant changes using analytics? There are 4 things that we found. So the first one being, I'm a big fan of Shark Tank, and this is very applicable to my point, but let me tell you this. So this is my 8th trip to the West Coast since January, not including a trip to Europe. So I've been on a plane a lot, and this plays all the time. And I watch this over and over again because I love the premise of it. You gotta come in, you gotta state your business case, you gotta prove the value to get the investment, and then you go and build, and you make money. Love it. Same thing that you need to do with making an attribution investment. You need to build the business case, and the business case highlights 3 things. What are the benefits of attribution? What's the cost, and what are the risks if I don't do this? Benefits, cost savings, target more effectively, understand your audience better, understand the purchase path, cost, technology cost, startup cost, implementation cost, resource cost. But what are the risks? And this is a little bit harder to quantify. Competitive disadvantage, losing market share. My point being is that if you're looking to make this investment, think about it from a business case standpoint, right? Benefits, costs, and risks. I wrote a report on this on Forrester.com. You could search for it. I have a nifty little tool. You can type in, all your information as it pertains to your business, right? To come up with a short, medium, and long-term impact. So state the business case. I love this slide. It's not really good resolution, but I started laughing hysterically when I saw it because I am an economist by education, and this is what it was like in my advanced macro and micro econometric theory classes. There would be a theorem, and the professor would say, prove it. And you'd have to mathematically prove it out. And 3 long whiteboards later, you'd come up with the answer to prove it. But often I felt like, prove it, like poof, it's just there, right? But that's how a lot of marketers feel today, is that they don't get it. They don't get the approach. They don't get how a lot of these algorithms are recalculating these metrics. I use the term black box, which I personally do not like that term. I think the black box term is an excuse for marketers not willing to understand the approach. And I'm not saying that you need to be a data scientist. Heck, I'm not even saying you need to hire one. I'm saying you need to work with customer insights, you need to work with your analytics professionals, your colleagues, to just understand the basic theory of how it's calculated. Work with your partners, your agencies, your vendors, to understand this a bit more. Because you want to turn that whole black box mentality into a clear box mentality. You want to have full transparency in terms of how it's being calculated. Because it's really not on, the vendor really just doesn't have anything to hide, or your service provider, whomever is building this model for you, or even your internal team. It's not about them having a black box, it's about your unwillingness to learn what this is all about. And again, you don't have to go up to the board and prove out the theory, but ask questions. Where is this data coming from? How are you connecting the data? How are you calculating and fractionally allocating across the board? Is this the right method? You know, these are kind of just smart questions to ask, and it will become clearer and clearer. What that will help you to do, build a business case, and be able to communicate the value of it. Connect the insights into media execution systems. Easy, not really. But years ago when I was at GE, on the advanced analytics team, we would build these models, and they would sit in our modeling warehouse, in our scoring database, and then Axiom would productionize the scores and have it live on their database for prospect scoring. It was this whole thing. It was really difficult and really long to do. So gone are those days. I mean, you have technologies that can connect insights and data through APIs, right? What we found through this study, that there is a strong need to have these insights connected to execution systems, bid management platforms, digital media buying, DSPs, those types of platforms, so you can execute changes, right? Remember, your attribution model is just going to tell you like what your true costs were, what your true conversion rates per interaction, per channel, per tactic was, right? So that's what it's going to tell you. The real value in it is the optimization piece, the ability to optimize your next best dollar, where you should invest in, right? And the ability to take that information and execute on the engines, using technologies to execute, and using your agencies to help execute and manage your media plans as well, right? So connect that information and connect those insights to those execution systems. And finally, test and experiment, right? So you don't want this just to be insights and reports. I mean, that's boring. Anybody in this room can create that, but a really good marketer will come up with recommendations and ideas for testing. Don't stay in the box and continually invest or even make shifts into something that you know that's working. So you're shifting from PPC to a display ad, right? Or you're shifting more money the opposite way into something that you know it's working. Now's your chance to test and experiment different content and creative, different audiences, offers. Identify a champion and continually test. I'm not suggesting that you test all the time because that can get expensive. But be creative and show that you want to adjust content and strategy and interactions to expand your customer base and to grow those customers while staying within your core brand value. And finally, I'll leave you with this. You know, it's not a project, right? Attribution measurement or analytics should never be viewed as a project. It is an ongoing journey. And why is it an ongoing journey? Because customers are constantly changing. They're connected to different devices. They're using different platforms to interact with brands. Right now it's Facebook. People are moving more and more towards Instagram and Pinterest and all those other sites that I'm really not on at all. I'm just on Facebook. But they're connecting to those different sites to learn more about products and brands and interact and view new things. So your mission to measure across that journey is constantly evolving. And it is extremely complex with the proliferation of devices. So keep that in mind. You're never going to solve for everything. You just want to solve for certain pieces of the puzzle. And as new things pop up, you just want to make sure you have the resources, technology, and the aptitude to measure and optimize against the new things. So with that, thank you, and I'll take any questions.
So if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Great. Coming up here.
It seems like, or I guess what I've run across is the more sophisticated the attribution solution gets in terms of algorithmic and number of channels it's able to incorporate, the harder it is to utilize that, how you're talking about in terms of like these several times a day changes in the media mix. So I was a little surprised at the 46% several times a day adjustment figure. Are those like orgs that have solved for that, or do you think that's mostly people actioning against less sophisticated models?
I believe it is, given that we know that about 76% are using rules-based at minimum, it's better than last touch. Now, rules-based attribution approaches, right, as we all know, just in some cases could arbitrarily assign credit to different interactions, right? Or it could be a little bit more sophisticated where you have business rules pushing allocations across devices. So we do know that 76% have moved away towards last touch. So my theory is that out of those 76%, 46 are making changes several times a day. I will tell you that out of the Fortune 500 companies that I do talk to, a lot of them do make those changes several times a day. Sometimes in other platforms, the data may be a little bit delayed, so maybe a day lag, so they don't have the convenience of having the algorithm on top of the media buying platforms. But I think the number is reflective of those who are a little bit more advanced than just last touch.
While folks are thinking of questions, I will ask one.
Okay.
Which is, we know that kind of if we're looking at just the online journey, that's complex enough. Do you have any findings or insights of organizations that are looking at offline conversions or things like phone calls or in-store activity and the challenges or opportunities of integrating those within the attribution measurement?
Yeah, so we see successes in kind of spot examples. So there may be a mobile ad campaign that's running and they're using beacons to measure in store, or being able to identify through a customer identifier, like an email address, somebody on an Android device, whether they convert in store. So there's spot cases of retailers doing that, but nothing holistically. And I think that's evolving, right? As there are companies like Drawbridge having the ability to identify either through deterministic or probabilistic ways, people who are viewing ads, desktop, mobile to in-store. That in 2015 is a huge challenge in terms of identity and cross-channel using mobile devices to in-store measurement. And it's a challenge because they need to be able to identify a user, right? Identify me, Tina Moffett, receive a Gap ad on my phone, one in the store, and maybe I made a purchase, maybe I didn't. But being able to make that leap of me walking in the store, that's where it becomes tricky.
Hi, Hi. So when we think about attribution, we think about huge programs with a lot of data. But how big does a digital program actually have to be before attribution is valuable and insightful?
In terms of marketing and media budget, oh, geez. I'll be honest, I don't have quite an answer for you. I've seen media budgets as low as 20 million using some type of attribution model, an algorithmic-based one. But I don't have a concrete answer for you, but I could certainly check with my digital media buying and planning guys to see if they have an answer for you.
Okay. We're actually out of time.
Great.
I'd like to move us along so we're on track for the day, for the afternoon. So thank you, Tina.
Great, thank you, everyone.